A million, a billion, a trillion. They sound like cousins, one syllable apart. But watch what they actually mean. A million seconds ago was a week and a half back. A billion seconds ago, The Lion King was still in cinemas, 32 years ago. And a trillion seconds ago. We honestly can't finish that sentence yet. That's the whole video. Because in 2026, one person, Elon Musk, briefly touched that third word, $1 trillion. And nobody, not even him, can really picture it. Welcome to Tiny Brain. Big questions, where we take the biggest questions in the world and shrink them into tiny little drawings. Today, we climb the money ladder, $1 at a time, until the numbers stop making sense. Start with something you can hold, a single dollar bill. 6 inches long, 1 gram, thinner than a playing card. We'll do just 2 things with it, over and over. Stack the bills upward into a tower, or lay them end to end into a ribbon. This one bill is our ruler. Everything above it is just this, multiplied. First rung up, $1 million. In $100 bills, that's 10,000 notes. Together they make a neat brick of paper, weighing about 10 kilos. You could zip it into a backpack and carry it over one shoulder. In time, 1 million seconds is about 11 days, barely this month. Honestly, 1 million feels graspable. And that is exactly the trap. Because surely 1 billion is just a slightly bigger bag. Right? Wrong. $1 billion won't fit in a bag. It fills 10 shipping pallets and weighs 10 tons, as heavy as 2 elephants. Now you need a truck. Because 1 billion isn't a bit more than 1 million. It's 1,000 millions. And in time, 1 billion seconds is almost 32 years. A whole adult lifetime. We just jump from a backpack to a truck. Make that same jump one more time, and no truck on earth can hold it. You have to stop weighing the money and start counting the years. 1 trillion seconds ago, there were no cities, no farms, no writing. Just a person in a cave, painting a mammoth on the wall, deep in the last ice age. That's how far 1 trillion reaches in time. 31,700 years. 1 billion seconds was one lifetime. This is the leap that breaks your brain on purpose. To count back 1 trillion, you'd leave behind cars, phones, whole cities, all of it, and land before civilization even begins. One is a single life. The other is older than farming, older than writing, older than history itself. That's the top of the ladder. So now let's walk all the way around the monster we've built. Spend $1 million a day. No weekends, no days off. And you still can't burn through 1 trillion. To finish, you'd have had to start about 2,700 years ago, back when Rome was still a cluster of huts. And earning it is even crueler. On a minimum wage, around $15,000 a year, your first million takes about 66 years, a whole working life. 1 billion takes 66,000 years. And 1 trillion? 66 million years. You'd have had to clock in before the dinosaurs went extinct. $1 trillion could buy every professional football, basketball, and baseball team in America, all of them, twice over, with billions to spare. It could buy 1,000 of the world's fanciest private jets, 100 giant skyscrapers, and a scatter of tropical islands, and you'd still have most of it left. 1 trillion doesn't buy things. It buys whole categories of things. And you still couldn't fit a fraction of it in that truck. Stack $1 trillion in $100 bills into one tower, and it climbs 679 miles, punching clean past the edge of space, almost 3 times higher than the space station orbits. That same trillion in paper weighs about 10,000 tons. You've essentially rebuilt the Eiffel Tower out of cash, Now swap to $1 bills and lay them end to end. That ribbon of money would stretch nearly 97 million miles, far enough to reach all the way to the sun. In 2026, one man became worth more than the entire yearly economy of 170 different countries, each and every one of them. When his rocket company, SpaceX, went public that June, Elon Musk's fortune crossed $1 trillion, the first person in all of history to get there. And he still isn't the biggest number here. One chip company, NVIDIA, which mostly makes the tiny processors that run AI, is valued at around $5 trillion, bigger than the entire economy of Japan. And the United States government? It owes about $39 trillion, a debt growing by nearly $8 billion every day. And if $1 trillion already feels impossible to hold, look what sits above it. Add up every banknote and coin on the whole planet, and it comes to only about $9 trillion, which means more than 90% of the world's money isn't paper at all. It lives as numbers on a screen, quietly created the moment a bank types out a loan. Above $1 trillion sits a quadrillion, 1,000 trillions. And history has actually printed the impossible. In 2009, Zimbabwe issued a single banknote worth $100 trillion. The day it appeared, it was worth about $30 US, and within weeks, it couldn't buy a loaf of bread. So, what is $1 trillion really? Here's the strange answer. It was never a mountain of gold or a warehouse of cash. In 1971, the world agreed to stop tying the dollar to gold, and money became something stranger still: pure trust. $1 trillion is just a number that 8 billion strangers decided, together, to take seriously. It was never solid. Musk's own fortune can swing by tens of billions between breakfast and dinner. That tower to space, that ribbon to the sun, nobody will ever really build them. The belief that they could is what's real. Money might be the biggest story we've ever told each other, and $1 trillion is just the point where the story grows too big to picture. If you enjoyed The Climb, subscribe to Tiny Brain, Big Questions, and tell me in the comments what I should shrink down next. Until next time.